as a community have to look for how we can come together and create avenues. Our churches, they must be open to our community beyond just Sunday morning and Wednesday night Bible study. We have to utilize, we have Compassion Baptist Church that has a regulation-sized gym in it. We have Christ Bible Church that has an activity center. We need to utilize those benefits within our community to give our young people something to do and make sure that we are taking advantage of programming that the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, the Cook County government, and the federal government has, but we have to have leadership that knows where those avenues and where those resources are, and to demand that we have programming, job training, apprenticeship in that. Thank you.
Talk to you a little bit about gangs, a little bit about crime. Let me share with you that for me, working with crime and working with the gangs is going to be critical. Because just for the last 3 weeks, I have been involved in 5 shootings. I've had 4 or 5 times. For me, that is not acceptable. We need to work with our young people that are in our community. And at the end of the day, they need something else to do. So for us just to say, you need to stop shooting each other, you need to turn in your guns, we need to say, what is it that's missing in their lives? What is it that we can bring to the table? Because these individuals are trying, first of all, the ones that are out here, for example, selling the blue cigarettes, they're doing this because they don't have jobs. So how do they infuse income into their families? We need to understand what's missing. We need to give them alternatives. We have schools out here. The schools close 3, 4 o'clock. Why can't we leave the schools open a longer period of time and use those as community development centers? Allow our kids to come in and have sports, maybe have crafts. Do something constructive with them and keep them out of the streets. We know that at the end of the day, an idle mind is not a productive mind. We need to give our young people something to do. I believe in community policing. I believe in working with local government. The police can't do it by themselves. We need to empower our businesses. We need to empower our residents. If we feel empowered, we will do more. We will be vested in our community. Thank you very much.
I think I want to just go back to what Ms. Reed said. We're all going to have similar answers because we all live in the community. We all feel like we're vested here, and we want to see change happen in our neighborhoods. And what we really have to think about is how do we address some of the underlying issues that are really plaguing our communities. And what has happened, and many of you have lived here over the course of 20, 30, 40 years, have seen the socioeconomic changes that have put us in despair in our neighborhoods. And what we need to do is think of creative ways that we can start changing that. And it goes along with supportive services to support the things that we want to do. So yes, after school programs, better working with the police department, and that's on us. We have to be accountable too. When there are things going on your block that you know are going on, you have to be responsible to call the police. The way that city services are disseminated are based on the calls for service. I don't care if you have to call the police 20 times. You have to do that. I went to block clubs, block parties over the course of the past 2 summers. And I walked up one side of the block, and before I get to the barbecue pit, I have to tell people, hey, can you go up there and tell them the alderman's coming because, whatever you're doing, you need to stop. Right? I go up one side of the block, come down the other side of the block, what's going on? I got people who've been here for 30 years saying, they're the problem house. Well, why are you allowing them to stand out in the middle of the street with the barbecue pit and drug paraphernalia? So we have to be accountable too in terms of if we really want to address some of the things that are going on in our neighborhoods. It's on each and every one of us to feel a part of this community, and if we all want to make it better, we're all going to have to work together to make that happen. That's how change happens. We use these programs for after school and community policing. We use those programs in tandem with making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do as a community.
I agree with Mr. Mosley. We can't lock up the problem. They're in our community, it's here. As far as it comes to you, we do need the after-school programming, the jobs, all the resources to help them. But we have to do our part. I'm in a community that go to school, that we bullying. There is so much our kids are going through that we didn't have to. So I believe we, as an adult, need to reach out to them. Start saying hello to them. It's just a small thing. Some of these kids don't get a nice word said to them on a daily basis. If we reach out and talk with them, I mean, we're fearing them and they're fearing us. You walk across the street and they're wondering like, I haven't even did anything. A lot of times we see people hanging on the corner and you're like, oh, they're starting again and they're calling in on little things as that. But we don't know the situation. They might not be able to be at home while their mom's at work or can't have company. They just want to talk to somebody, have a friend. You have to really just be compassionate. Talk to these children. Actually say hello and get to know them. That we can actually have them rake the leaves, shovel snow, do some little yard work around the house, do something for us. That's the creative ways that we can embrace our children because they're there. They're here in our community. All right.
January 2nd, my one staff volunteer who's been most faithful to me was beaten so bad that both of his eyes were bloodshed at this very moment. He is a United States military veteran who served in Afghanistan. And the saddest part about this is he went to war in another country, fighting for this country, and he has to fight for his life on U.S. soil. Now, to you, on top of me explaining earlier that my son was killed by violence in the street, just this past week on 79th and Luella, between the offices of Kiana Baird and Will Bigby, there was a shooting. On June 2nd, outside the laundromat, on 79th and Marquette, 7 people were shot. When I moved into the community, my family called me absolutely insane. Why the hell are you in that neighborhood? I said, because you can't run from your problems, you have to face them. In the 7th Ward, there's 80% felony conviction rate amongst the African American community in the male division. Between 18 and 28, the majority of the African American men have been incarcerated for some form of whether it was planted on them or whether they did something or whatever the case, everybody has a rap sheet. Currently, I have a list of over 200 employers who are felon friendly. We have to replace the guns with paychecks. We have to replace the guns with diplomas. It takes $17,000 to educate one individual. It takes $58,000 to incarcerate them. When we look at the fact that jails are becoming privatized, you have to understand that they have to meet quotas to maintain those numbers. And if you know anything about those numbers, you'll understand that whatever it takes to maintain those numbers so those officers can maintain that $58,000 a year will be and can be done if you don't maintain control of your community. I'm here to work on all of those issues.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, our mics went out, so we're just going to have to use our street voices. We train the young people, not our inside voice. And the next question, I have several that are along this same way, so I'm going to kind of combine it. Someone wrote that economic disparities perpetuate violence. And we're wondering about economic development. So on that note, the question is, what will you do to bring more businesses to the community, the 7th Ward? And we are going to start with Ms. Reed. I'm sorry, Ms. Valentine. We're going to go back around this way.
Some of the things that I propose in rebuilding the 7th Ward is inviting more small businesses. If we can train African Americans how to be self-sustained versus depending upon other people, instead of reaching out for a handout and look for a handout. When we teach that individual who's on the street selling that $5 bag of weed, you can go ahead and you can turn that into a pair of shoes or sell a suit in a store. When you take and show that individual how to market those skills and to utilize them in a professional manner, then you're building a community. We have to reinstill the value of our African American youth. We have to teach that young lady who knows how to do that weed real good. Shaquita, the one who do it for $20, how to go to school to get that degree so that you can go ahead and earn $60,000 from doing that same hairdo, and that will lead to other opportunities. We have to teach that young man who's out there tearing a brick apart with a piece of steel on the street, how he can turn that into a masonry position. We have to teach that young person who's playing with an iPad at 3 years old and doesn't realize that they could be a future computer programmer. We have to take the resources that are given to us. You know, under the Title IV program, they allow monies for free computers. When we introduce after-school programs that offer Title IV funding, that offer free computers, we can provide the instruments and the tools to make our children just as competitive as other children in other communities. When we make the resources available to our children so that they are able to do what they need to do, then we are empowering a generation instead of throwing away a nation.
I agree. We also, I love the fact that we do job creation, because that's what's needed. We need to bring back the mom and pop. We also need to bring back trade to our schools, so our youth can learn trades to put them out there and be successful. We also want to bring in, to bring more business to our neighborhood too. I would love to actually show off just the assets that we have right here in the 7th Ward. The wonderful lakefront property. We also have beautiful parks. We have so many wonderful things. We are just sitting on multi-million-dollar properties. As far as the real estate business, we need real estate services that are in our area to help address some of these abandoned buildings, all the properties that are in the area. We can have construction firms. We can have a lot of firms that you would have in your neighborhood that you can go right to instead of running to other neighborhoods to get the information or the services that you need right here. To bring businesses here and showing off and just promoting the ward to be the best place to live, work, and play. We need restaurants. We need tax services. Any service like professional that can come and line our streets and so we can, lawyers, attorneys, there are so many things that we need that are useful to our community that we can reach out and bring these people here. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like we need big box businesses. We need just to get the mom and pop things, just to learn, just to see our business growth and keep money in our community.
Well, remind me, Candace, the question is, what will you do to bring business?
Right, so one of the things I did when I first became alderman was to really take an inventory of the assets in the ward, and I think, we've heard about a few. But when you look at the different corridors we have, so we have Exchange Avenue, which is industrial, retail, and commercial. We have 75th and 79th and 83rd, which are traditional neighborhood retail corridors. And we have 95th Street, which is a big box corridor. And so what I did was I said, okay, what can I do? I have to set a model in place so that we can find a way that we can start to develop along these different corridors. So in fact, just last month, I held what I called the Developers Roundtable. And what I did was I invited experts out. I also invited people and partnered with Alderman Harris because we actually on 79th go to Paxton, and then 8th Ward picks it up from Paxton to Stony. So a logical terminus for this study would be Stony Island to the lakefront. Obviously, everyone knows Lakeside is there, 600 acres of undeveloped property along Lake Michigan. No other place in America has that sort of development opportunity. But for me, Lakeside can't be successful if 79th Street isn't successful, because that is the premier gateway into that property. So I talked to developers, and there are 3 projects along that corridor that are currently being proposed. So the Regal, obviously the Western Termini, the young man has purchased it, and they're trying to redevelop it, and he has a whole vision for that. When you get along down to 79th and Exchange, there is a proposed grocery store, and then obviously Lakeside. So I'm going to wrap it up, but my point is that we can use this planning tool as a model as to how we can do other corridors and other parts of the ward. So I'm working with people to try and get them to acknowledge